Cats, cops, and C4. You know this is going to get at least half the station talking, Cenk remarks as he hands Linda the picture of Chief Bowman, and she tacks it onto the board. It was basically like someone decided that whiteboards and corkboards needed to be combined and made digital, a high-tech solution to a primitive problem. Well, we have to. Every angle of this has to be considered, and an expanded budget from the uptick in gang activity followed by ES rooting out the conspirators, the sort of thing that looks really good in a budget meeting. Meaning that technically, the chief is in position to take advantage of this, meaning she's also a suspect. Linda says as she uses a digital pen to cause a glowing line to expand from the image to right. Budget on one side, political aspirations on the other. Don't forget that by getting them to fight that she'd have a reason to send her own girls after the gangs, Vera says, and Linda pauses before drawing another line and writing down, gang destruction. There's also the fact that if she's in control of or is the Shroud, then she would be able to effectively fill up an area as large or as small as she pleases in the criminal underworld and effectively force out competition, killing her official workload while also filling her pockets. Cenk adds in and Linda writes a line for control, ease, and profit. Right, so the next part is to try and eliminate each one of these, Linda says before crossing out ease and in small letters writing absurd just above it. While it's an alright idea on the surface, lowering her workload by taking on more work and the increased work she has to keep it hidden means that ease is far from a decent motivation. I figured, I merely said it for completion's sake, Cenk says as he looks over his communicator. The profit motivation can probably be dismissed as well. According to this, Chief Bowman apparently has a fairly robust stock portfolio, and a good chunk of them would be better served by a more peaceful centrist. If she is the Shroud, then she makes a lot of money not being the Shroud. Good. I can attest to political aspirations being dismissed as well. She's well known for despising office politics and generally has to spend time on the range venting aggression after dealing with the political. If she has political aspirations, it's to stay the hell out of politics and stop them from perpetually screwing things up for everyone else. Linda reports as she crosses out profit and writes good portfolio right above it. Really? Every now and then we get some new secretary that doesn't understand that and they become a rumor monger. They get dragged into the chief's office and generally screamed at until they quit or outright stop, Linda says as she crosses out political aspirations and in smaller letters writes history of impatience. So that leaves us the budget, control, and gang destruction, Cenk considers. And that's just the chief. There's a whole whackload of ladies with more than enough time on their hands to get things like this done. So maybe we need to look another way, Vera asks, and Linda considers. Well, motivations are one end, and with the possible benefits of what the Shroud is doing, motivation is going to be in high supply all over the place. So the next question is, who has the means? Tossing around Kutha coins isn't too impressive, but rigging a communicator to blow shows at least a small amount of technical know-how. Preparing a speech ahead of time that is simultaneously entertaining, insulting, and divulges nothing is a fairly clever but not exceptional act. What about security feed? We know that at the exact time of the call, the Shroud was communicating with us. They also claimed to be fetching a drink at that time. So perhaps we can look on security feeds to see if someone was seen to be drinking at that time, Cenk asks. A bit of a long shot, but perhaps a way to eliminate some suspects, Linda considers. If she was drinking, if you're trying to hide and be clever, then you're going to lie a lot. So why would they actually be drinking anything? They're a criminal, so lying is second nature to them, Vera says. Oh, I'm aware of that, Vera, believe me. It's one of the biggest headaches of the job. We're in the first round of information gathering and sorting. The things that can be dismissed with simple logic are what we're booting out now, After that, we gather evidence for what's left and then keep sifting through to see if we can't find something of use. Most of the time, sessions like this end with us realizing we know nothing useful and all of our guesses are wrong, Linda says. We don't even know if the shroud is a woman. They've used a voice synthesizer. We have no age range, no real budget range beyond respectable. The only motivation that we can't dismiss immediately is profit. And to be perfectly honest, we don't even know if the woman I spoke to was the shroud or if the shroud even exists. Having a boogeyman as the face of your operations that you can just drop at a moment's notice would be a perfect way to do all sorts of shady business without it touching your normal life. Having someone else do that for you means that you have even more separation between yourself and the consequences of your behavior. Okay, yes, all of that is possible, but it complicates everything to such an extreme degree that we're putting it to the side until we exhaust our other options. We work from the assumption that the shroud is working to their own interest, and being the silent partner of numerous businesses in legal gray areas and inciting gang wars helps them. Only when that assumption is proven wrong do we start grasping at wilder theories. Linda scolds him and Cenk puts up his hands in surrender. All right, so I'm going to start looking through all the political parties on the spires where the gangs were provoked and see if there's anyone tough on crime or would otherwise see an uptick in votes if gang wars were to break out and more people have their possessions stolen and resold secondhand. And I've helped about as much as I can with this. I'll be in the gym and out of the way if you need me, Vera says, standing up with a stretch and sauntering to the door. Come get me if you're heading out. If there's any action, I want to be part of it. Don't worry, we're not going anywhere without our little death kitty, Cenk assures her. You better not, Vera says, pointing at him before leaving the office entirely. Okay then, let's see. On Delos Spire, there is a tough-on-crime party, and they've had increased support since the gang wars got kicked off. The Delo family party. Public safety and family benefits are a big thing to them. Numerous neighborhood watches are counted as members. Several gravid churches of differing orthodoxy are also donators, and they've never gone beyond a minority party. But they've had about a 3-point bump in the percentiles, which all told is pretty big. Good. That works. Do we have any prominent names? Linda asks him, and Cenk starts scrolling a bit more. Yes, but there's a deluge of political ads on their political site, which is really redundant. Cenk remarks. Here we go. The tough-on-crime candidates are Belinda Northcrest, an Alfar who's been in the party for about 30 years now. Jade Whiteflow, a slobe woman with a bluish-green composition just to make the name confusing. Cenk starts listing off and Linda is writing down the information, but is mildly amused by his sheer sarcasm. Wendy, no less name, and yes, no less name is her last name. Agravia with neon pink hair and clothing. Finally, we have Amelia Strong, a Sonier with a distinctive birthmark around her right eye. It's turned the fur there pure white in an almost handprint-like pattern, just missing a finger. Missing a finger for some races, not all of them. I did patrol around some of the Delo family party's campaign events a few times. I haven't spoken to any of those women, but I do know who you're talking about. Also, Jade Whiteflow is turquoise. Linda adds in as she finishes writing the names on the board. So Jade Whiteflow is neither jade nor white, but you know what? Never mind, Cenk replies. All 4 of these women have run on campaigns in the last 5 years based off the idea of making the Delo Spire a safer place for families with a particular focus on shutting down or dissolving the local gangs. It's why they need security when they make public appearances. They've received death threats in the past for being so anti-gang, Linda says as she considers things. It seems out of character, though, for these women to make a deal with the Shroud in order to push their own agenda. But they have benefited, so they can't be completely dismissed from the suspect list. I do agree, though, that they seem fairly low rankings, however. They all clearly have stable jobs, and while they benefit from these events, it's in a very roundabout manner that honestly could have backfired if they were responsible, Cenk says before sighing and scratching his head, which also means it may be some rival within their own political party or an opposing one that wanted it to look like their policies were backfiring and their own discrediting attempt backfired itself. "Don't you just love conspiracy?" Linda asks in an amused tone. "I'd love to strangle who's at the heart of it." Cenk mutters as he thinks. "Okay, so as before, if we look for motive, it's everyone. The problem is that the Shroud hasn't done anything exceptional yet. They've got proven street-level knowledge of several spires. Any idiot can pick that up with some basic footwork and research. They have some money and technical skill. Again, any idiot with a job and a technical manual has that as well. They also have funds to invest in business sense. But again, a basic job and a textbook can teach you that, which means basically every living adult that doesn't redefine the term lazy bastard has the means, which does the exact opposite of narrowing things down." Linda considers and taps her chin in thought. "We're missing something. The taunting. The Shroud gave us no information, but their reaction to information is information in and of itself. The sheer disregard she has for Argus tells us that this is someone with a work ethic," Cenk says as he starts finding things coming together. "That she had at least one, possibly more speeches prepared and pre-recorded means that she was counting on opposition. She was ready for you." Linda realizes that her first response was to talk and confirm things rather than deny means they're confident in their ability to either hide, obfuscate, or outright avoid the consequences of their actions. "They also cut me off when I was about to make a recruitment pitch. They knew it was coming. Not very hard if they're paying the slightest attention to what my people and I have been doing. But that it was dismissed so quickly means that they either have misunderstood or, more likely, want nothing to do with the Undaunted. They likely don't want the scrutiny that working in a military organization puts on you. Even the basic but effective lure of working alongside many bachelors doesn't sway them, meaning they're not interested, married, or male themselves. Which is finally something that really narrows things down, somewhat at least." Linda notes before her eyes widen, or possibly a lot. She had a lot of disdain for Argus, but also knew personal details about him. She knows his age, his patterns, and had a personal insult ready for him. She's at the very least familiar with him, if not having been intimately involved at one point. A former lover? Or a gang member whose boss plied Argus with a few favors? Or the second hand of a boss who's watched her throw away money on him? Or maybe even a rival gang member that never touched him? He's been in that building for 50 years. She's been in there too, and that's how we get her. That's the biggest narrowing yet. How's that building's security cameras? Lousy. They're prone to technical faults and rapid wear and tear. Linda answers, drawing the air quotes with her fingers to emphasize things. All right, we go for the earliest confirmed Shroud activity and start poking around who's been seen in the building around then and earlier. We know they've been there before, and if that doesn't lead us to the Shroud directly, it will at least get us closer to her. Cenk says, striding to the door, then stopping, which means more research and sifting through files. You may be far more patient than Vera, but you're still eager. Linda chides him gently. He lets out a rueful chuckle. What can I say? I like the excitement.